Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. The Premier League fixtures are out, and Nottingham Forest will kick off the season at home to Brentford. So we'll review the fixtures in full as we look at the opening 6 games, the run-in, and any potential sticky patches in the company of, first of all, Pete Blackburn. Pete, morning. How are you?
Morning. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm relieved because my entire screen just went black while you did all the intro stuff, and I wasn't sure if I was going to appear or not. So nice to actually be here.
Good. That is a relief. It's got a WhatsApp off you saying the video is not playing. I was like, oh, it is for me. So I think we're okay. Paul Morley, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, good. It feels like this day always feels like a bit of a line in the sand, doesn't it? Where it's no time to look forward, and looking back's done, and it's all about next season. And pretty excited seeing the fixture list, and keen to have a chat about it. Looks like a good start for us, I think, which I'm sure we'll get into.
How do you feel about the opening game then, Paul? Brentford at home.
Yeah, I think actually I've noticed down we start at home, we finish at home, and we've got 2 pretty tasty looking festive fixtures at home as well. So I think from that perspective, they've fallen pretty well. I mean, Brentford at home, it feels like the first few games feel quite similar to the makeup of the first 3 or 4 games last season, I think. So, Brentford at home should be a good opportunity to make a good start, I think. And then we've got, Palace away, West Ham at home. And then 4th game of the season, we go away to Arsenal, which is the team that is our longest sort of barren run of not having won at that stadium, which was exactly the same last year when I think we had this same chat and somebody suggested we might get a result at Liverpool in the 4th game this time last year. So who knows what might happen at Arsenal. But all in all, I think it's a good kind start, and gives us a good opportunity to really, I think, get a good solid start on the board before the European games sort of start in earnest in October time. So looking forward to it.
I fully appreciate you holding that Anfield win over our heads a year later, and probably when we do this next year as well.
You should have got a clip of that to play in.
I should have done if I thought that far ahead. Right, let's have a look at those opening 6 games then, and remind people who we've got. Brentford at home, Palace away, West Ham at home, Arsenal away, Burnley away, and Sunderland at home. With the fixtures, Pete, I don't place a huge amount of stock in them, apart from a couple of areas. And one, to me, is definitely the first 6 or 7 games. Because if you look at Wolves last season, if you get off to a catastrophic start with really tough fixtures, your season can unravel and need some serious surgery. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then the running as well, which we'll get to. Sorry, not the running, a cluster of fixtures against top 6 teams where it can all unravel. But the opening 6 games for me look good. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm in exactly the same place as you, to be honest. I think, when we are looking at doing this fixtures pod each year, it's like it feels like a bit of a hospital pass because you don't really know what you're going to talk about. The old adage, you play them all twice. But I do totally agree about that start to the season. And like you say, with Wolves, we saw last season just how badly wrong it can go. And it's very, very difficult to recover that. I mean, you think about that Wolves team, in hindsight now, you look at them and think, what a really decent side they are. Plenty of talent through that side, but obviously an insane run of fixtures at the start of the season. It's so hard to come back from that. And I guess particularly for Forest, given that Nuno's going to be dealing with 2 competitions, planning for all that sort of stuff, being able to get hopefully some opportunities for points early doors is, I think, really, really important. And even more so probably because I think we all know that there's an owner in charge at Forest who isn't going to be slow to take action if he feels like things aren't working out. And I feel like ideally these sorts of fixtures just give us a chance to get our feet back under the table and hopefully get some points on the board. Obviously taking nothing for granted, because really we haven't got a clue, have we? You don't know what any of these teams are going to be. If anything, I don't know if maybe it's just the same every year and I just forget, but I look at the Premier League table this year and I find it so hard to judge what most of the teams are going to be. There feels like there's an awful lot of change in the air. I mean, Brentford first game up, great example. What on earth are Brentford going to be? You don't know. I think your general feeling is that that's a team of a club, I suppose, that has real stability, and therefore you'd expect them to be able to manage the loss of a manager and a few players. But those are big old losses, aren't they? If we talk about Wisson and Burma going, and Thomas Frank, who's been there for so long and is so much part of everything they do. So they could be anything by the time we play them. But hopefully that sort of bit of uncertainty around them, a little bit of the X factor gone, will play into our hands. And like you say, look, you couldn't argue really that those are 6 opening fixtures that give us opportunities. And you can say that about any game, but certainly they feel like games where we could put a bit of a marker down and hopefully get off to a strong start. But the more important thing, I think, is Paul Morley going to double down? Has he got a big prediction for us away at Arsenal? I want to hear it.
Well, like I say, the omens are there, aren't they? I mean, that 4th game of the season away from home, the team that's the longest run we've had without winning at their ground, I think is 89, I think, since we last won at Arsenal in the league. So, I mean, they've got a tough old start, actually, Arsenal. Their first 3 or 4, first 6 games, I think, are really tough. They start away at United. They've got, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they've got Villa, possibly Liverpool in their first few games, Chelsea. So, they've got a tough first 6 games. So, they're going to go into that game arguably, possibly under a bit of pressure. I don't know. I know it's really silly to say maybe 3 games in, 4th game in, they'll be under pressure. But if they get off to a slow start, you never know. You never know.
Well, the Opta analyst have done their usual sort of fixture difficulty stuff, and they've got Arsenal having their second hardest start, and obviously all the caveats that we've already mentioned. In fact, they don't know really what these teams are going to be, but they're saying United and Arsenal with the sort of standout difficult first 5, I think they do over rather than 6.
Yeah.
I've got a chart on that. I'll come to it in a moment. I see Trevor in the chat saying 16 points from 6 games. So if people want to play that game in the chat, how many points from those 6 games? And I'll give Paul.
I can't believe we're doing this already again.
I'm going to give Paul. I'm not going to do it for Peaks. Pete will just refuse to play. But I'll give Paul.
No, I'll play.
Okay,
so the last time, how long ago was it that we were talking about how many points we're going to get in the last 6 fixtures?
I know, but it's that time of the season, isn't it? It's totally frivolous. So I'll give you chaps a chance then. Super Mario says 11. How many points from those games do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I think there's 11 up for grabs there. I think if we get 10 plus would be obviously a good start. I think if you get 11, that means you're only losing 1 game out of those first 6, which obviously, despite what I just said, the obvious one that stands out as the biggest opportunity to come away with nothing is probably Arsenal away, isn't it? So, 10, 11 points I think would be a solid start. Like I say, it just lay a bit of a foundation then, because after those games, you're into playing Thursday, Sunday for a couple of months. So that's, I think, another reason why those first 6 are important, because that's the one stage of the season where potentially we're not going to have any distractions. I actually haven't said that. We've obviously got the qualifiers that are going to be in the mix in the middle of that, haven't we, for the Conference League, which hopefully might not take too much out of us if it's against Shamrock Rovers or something like that. But yeah, I'll go with 11.
I've not put dates on because I think, as Paul said, some of these games might move. The first one, it sounds like it clashes with a cricket reservation already. So Uncle Temps has already, pissed on the City ground floor and laid out his stance. It's got to move. So we'll see about that. But it's the European thing. Anyway, let's just put a few numbers up. So yeah, Super Mario 11, Jackie 11, Desonia 9, 13 from Robbo. I see an 18 from Dr. Peg. Lee says 11, 13 for Alex, and 5 from Steve, which must be Steve Allen. I can't imagine it's any other Steve in the world. And Matt D also says 15 from 18. What about you then, Pete?
I think I'd be looking at trying to win 3 of those games, and then if you can pick up a draw, even 2 draws, then I think you'd be in a really good place. So yeah, I think 9 would be my sort of hoped baseline, and if you can get a bit more than that, then that'd be fantastic. And like Paul says, realistically it's just going to get harder, regardless of the fixtures, really, because of the amount of games we're going to have to play, fighting on various different fronts. It's going to be a very different season, I guess. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So much of this is hard to say until we really know what we've got to play with in terms of the playing squad as well, because it could be a very, very different side, not just our opposition, but ours as well. So I think I'd be looking at trying to win 3 of those 6 games, ideally. And if you can get a point or 2 extra, then I think you're in a really good place.
Yeah, I think 10's a good baseline. You do look at this Burnley and Sunderland games like you'd look at any promoted team. And then, like as Pete says, Brentford could be anything. Palace are a decent side away. West Ham are a bit of an unknown quantity. I mean, West Ham of last season, definitely, but we just don't know. And then Arsenal, as Paul mentioned, do have a tough start. I've got this is Nick from Fantasy Football. So check out Fantasy Football Scout if you want any football stuff now. But they have us rated as about 6th there, I think, in the most difficult start. Yes. So and then Arsenal, Man United, Bournemouth, Newcastle have the toughest starts.
I guess the thing with these charts is like how much of it is really going to be relevant, because you see there that Spurs now are a nice blue friendly fixture. I mean, I've just got no concept right now of what they're going to be. I think they've easily got a squad that could make them a proper red fixture come the start of the season if Thomas Frank can sort of whip them into a bit of shape and get a bit more stability around them. So it's so hard to know, isn't it? But I think you can look at ours with a little bit of confidence that they're not horror show fixtures, are they? And actually, I think you're probably going to go on to this, but I sort of had a good look through the rest of the season. It feels like everything's sort of quite nicely spread out for us. I don't feel like there's any runs where we're in desperate trouble and we've been really screwed over by the computer and that sort of thing. So yeah, I feel pretty optimistic about it, actually.
Yeah, we'll go through a couple of the other months of the season. I agree, there's nothing catastrophic that stands out. There's some interesting months, certainly. Just for that, a word for the Trent Nav and a word for ourselves, really. We have got a live show coming up Friday, July 25th, 7 p.m. At the Trent Nav, obviously. Lewis and Kelvin will be on the stage, along with, as it stands, Pete, Mikey, Greg, and Temps. So come down. It's always a good fun. We'll have a charity raffle. We'll do a quiz again. Pete did a Wikipedia career quiz for players last time, and we'll repeat that because it was a big success. So it's only a £5.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk that. That was very, very rude of me. I was just going to ask, was that as it stands? Was that a sort of threat against me, or as performance related, or?
It's always based on availability over performance. Yeah. Your place is on the line, definitely. No, so for tickets only a £5 as well. So yeah, it should be a good night. It always is. So come on down to that Friday, the 25th of July, and also coming up at the Nav, if I can find. I've got so many slides in the deck here. Coming up is the 5th anniversary of Sainsbury's Festival of Love at the Nav. Alex P is headlining with his Ibethan revival. Saturday, the 28th of June, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Search gigantic.com to get your tickets now for that one. Right, let's have a look at what should we look at next. We'll just go through the fixtures actually and have a general look at things, see if there's any sticky patches coming through. The one that sprung to mind initially was October. I think we've got Newcastle away, Chelsea at home, Bournemouth away. That's probably as bad as it gets that I've seen, unless you chaps have seen anything different, Paul. Anything that's you?
I had October marked down, A, for those 3 games, and B, as I said, that's when sort of the Europe fixtures kick in earnest as well. So that will be a challenging month. And I think actually the final month of the season as well. I know we finish at home on the last day, but the 3 preceding fixtures in May coming up to the last day look on paper look like they could be tricky ones. Although, again, we said last season we had a great run in and look what happened. So that's probably a little bit too far away to start worrying about what fixtures we've got in May. There's a lot can happen between now and then. But yeah, I think of the first half of the season, October looks like probably the most tricky patch that we've got.
People are flagging the run in the chat. I can see. We'll have a look at that. I don't think there's anything that stands out to me. You referenced Christmas there, Pete. We've got Spurs at home on the 13th, Fulham away on the 20th. No Boxing Day game. We play Man City at home on the 27th. All these dates are subject to change, obviously. And Everton at home on the 30th. When I was talking to Harry Toffolo after we finished recording, I was asking about the fixtures because I made a flippant comment about them. And he said that players always look out for Boxing Day because their family, they want a home game. And that's the fixture they look at above anything else. So City at home, regardless of who it is, I'm sure the players will be happy with that and they'll be happy with the schedule around their family, certainly. Oh, and congratulations to Morgan Gibbs-White as well for his engagement. Speaking of family, to Brittany de Villiers. Here's a thing, a question, completely on a tangent. Around, I'm borderline going to use the word woke here at one point, but if he's going to be Morgan Gibbs-White de Villiers potentially, and then their kids get married, surnames are going to get longer and longer as we go along through society. I just wonder how that's going to pan out.
What do you want us to say about that?
It wasn't a question. I was just wondering about hyphenated surnames and how long they'll get if people keep taking hyphenated names.
Don't get that on your shirt. It's going to cost you a fortune, isn't
it? Exactly.
It's all a corporate money-making plan, you see.
Yeah, clubs will be encouraging it certainly in future. Have players with longer and longer surnames for shirts. I forgot where I was going, Pete. Any thoughts on the fixtures, Pete?
I think you were talking about December. I mean, this is a totally ridiculous point to make, really, given that it's something that we all are aware of. But the thing that struck me most about the fixtures was just looking on paper at that month, December the 3rd to January the 3rd, and you've got 7 games in it. And I don't think I'll ever quite get over how nuts that is. It's absolutely brutal. But again, I think there's, it feels like a mix of, from what we can sort of guess at this point, it feels like a sort of mix of standard of opposition. So it doesn't feel like a run where we're going to really struggle necessarily. And I think that's nice. I mean, clearly that period of the season last time round was pretty crucial to what happened as it played out. 7 games in a month can be pretty definitive, I guess, in terms of the sort of part of the table you might end up in. So I suppose it's a good thing that there's games in there that feel like they're winnable, and it doesn't say winnable. I know we've got at least one viewer who's going to be very annoyed that I said that, and I didn't really mean it. But we haven't got a clue what the oppositions are at this point. But it just looking at names and what we think about those clubs, it doesn't feel like it's a run that's going to sort of sink our season, I guess, and hopefully quite the opposite. You're talking about the October run and the end of season run. I don't look at them and think, oh, that's terrible. And I think that's a real indictment of how sort of nicely balanced it looks like our fixture list is to me, to be honest. I mean,
it's bogey teams, isn't it? Newcastle away, I know we won there. Chelsea at home has been awful, and obviously Bournemouth, anything with Bournemouth's awful. That's what stood out.
I agree. I mean, ignoring the evidence of my eyes and my horrible experiences, I don't really believe in that sort of stuff that much. So I'm hoping that is irrelevant. Although, I have actually been through the same suffering that you guys and everyone else watching and listening has. So, we have felt that stuff. But Newcastle United could be anything, right? They're competing at a very, very high level, and it's incredibly difficult to do Champions League and keep performing in the Premier League. Chelsea, I mean, who knows who will be managing them? Who knows who'll be playing for them? They'll probably recruit another 3 or 4 11s for players this summer and sell half of Southwest London or whatever. That football club could be absolutely anything. Doesn't scare me at all. And Bournemouth, look, it's about time, isn't it, that we turn things around on that front. And again, they're going to be a totally different team. I mean, Bournemouth might lose 4 out of their back 5 at the rate things are going. And their recruitment is brilliant, but I think, they're going to be the same Bournemouth this season.
I'll put the running up, actually, and we can just have a little chat around that as well. And this graphic's on from the Premier League, so please don't sue me, Premier League. Bournemouth on the final day, Newcastle at home, United away, and then Bournemouth. And then you can see on screen if you're looking. We do have a run that goes Villa home, Burnley home, Sunderland away. So hopefully we could profit from that. But I suppose, Paul, the thing is, if we looked at the end of last season, I think Villa finishing with Spurs and United, we'd have all said, that's a tough run in. And then it turned out to be the easiest run in imaginable, although I know United won that game against Villa. So it's in your mind, is it too far ahead to get too worried about these fixtures or not?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, the landscape could be, who knows what it could be going into that final month with the Chelsea, Newcastle, Man United games back to back. Feel like a tricky run in, but like I said, we had what seemed like a simple run in with the home games, which we all know that didn't go according to plan this season. So I think it's so far away to start predicating on those games right now, because who knows what position we'll be in. I mean, hopefully, we'll have a trip to Leipzig to look forward to about that sort of time of year, and we might be planning for that more so than those games. So, who knows? But it looks like on paper a tricky run in, but we'll just have to see what happens when that time arrives, and hopefully we're not. I guess the one thing we want to make sure is that we're not needing to win any of those games to survive, which I'm pretty sure this time last year we were looking at it thinking, okay, that's a positive run in that could give us a chance of making sure we stay up. I don't think we're having those conversations this year. So as long as that's the case, then I think we're in a good place.
That trip to Leipzig might be a trip to Istanbul, Paul. Have you got your hotel booked there as well?
I'm just with Leipzig at the moment, but we'll see. I'll obviously pivot if things change.
We still don't know exactly on that. I see it was an Irish club kicked out, wasn't there? Was it Drogheda or something like that? Yeah. So still waiting on that. There are a couple of hand grenades for the season that could throw some spanners in the works. Obviously, Europe isn't really a spanner in the works. We love it, but there's that factor. People in the chat also mentioning AFCON, which would be Ola, Aina, and Sangare, and Taiwo. Touch wood if he's fit by then. Hopefully it doesn't impact as much as last time. But there are some external factors as well to consider, Pete, aren't there?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's going to be an incredibly different season to last year. Also, very different for lots of teams, I guess, because the Premier League has so much presence in Europe as it stands. There's going to be a really large number of teams affected. So it'll be interesting. I mean, the AFCON thing is potentially a lesson to learn from last time round, I guess. It did feel like that was a problem for us. Although, having said that, everything was a problem for us in that first season because it was just so difficult, backs against the wall. We had real problems of injuries from recollection. A very, very sort of sparse, thin squad at that point, and we really couldn't afford it. But given that we're going to be fighting on two fronts, we could really do without losing many players. So, it'll be interesting to see whether that plays into recruitment or not. I don't know. I'm trying to think about the links we've had so far, whether there has been many links to players who would potentially be off. I can't think off the top of my head, but it'll be interesting to see whether that plays out. I mean, like you say, I think it was a big deal last time. Certainly, I recall, if I'm right, I think Sangare was sort of getting back to fitness and then went off again, and it was a bit of a mess, wasn't it? And
he caught malaria, didn't he?
Well, yes, indeed, yeah. So, not ideal. I guess that mantra, you can sort of only control what you can control, might play into the recruitment here because that is something that we can take control of in terms of who we bring into the football club and how available they're going to be in that sense. So perhaps you do look for players who aren't going to be heading on to AFCON this time round with so much on our plate this season.
Who went last time? Because obviously there's Willy Bolly as well.
Yes, happened last time. We had Kouyaté was there, wasn't he? When he was Kouyaté, Sangare. I think we had the most. I think in the league last time.
Yeah, we did. I'm trying to remember who was in it.
Tiana, Awonyi. I don't know the Taiwo go. He was injured.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is a factor in recruitment this time. I think it has to be, and I haven't seen us linked with any players. Yeah, Serge Aurier as well.
Aurier was there, wasn't he?
Yeah, it is a factor. We'll come to some final thoughts in bits. There isn't too much more you could say, but we do have to take a word for our second sponsors, Home Move Estate Agents, and there is a lovely video of a house this time, which I will run through now. Here we go. Right, this is Rutland Road, West Bridgeford, Nottingham. I'll say the price at the end, so you can have a guess, but we won't say because in case the sellers get offended. But I will say what it is. So watch along. 4-bed house, 2 bathrooms, semi-detached, 2 reception rooms, council tax band C. There you go. So you can see through it. It's a lovely property. And it is on the market for between 470,000 to 480,000. Open plan kitchen diner, ideal for entertaining, it says here, according to Ben Sales. So go to the website homemoveea.co.uk if you want to arrange a viewing of that. Lovely wall garden as well. I love a wall garden. We've got a wall garden at home, so maybe I'm biased. Right. I love how I managed to talk for about 45 seconds there about that house. But it did look nice.
Dion Dublin's quaking in his boots, isn't he?
He should be.
Big time.
He should be. Right. Lee asks, what should be the overall target for this season? We're miles away from knowing what our squad is, but at least there's about any form of European qualification. Have you thought that far ahead, Paul, or not?
Well, I think we just referenced it before about the spell. Pete referenced it last season. The sort of making of our season was that spell over Christmas where we won 6 games in a row, and that was the first time we'd done that since the mid-60s. Cloughie never never managed to win 6 in a row in the top division. So I think that to expect us to go on a similar run at some point this season is probably unrealistic. And if you look at last season, if you were to extract those 6 games from the season and you look at our average points per game either side of that, the other 32 games, we would have finished 10th. So we were equivalent to 10th place if you take those 6 games out of the equation. So for me, it feels like that's probably sort of a more realistic baseline. I think to expect 65 points again next season would probably be, particularly given the juggle with Europe, probably feels like a bit too much of an expectation. Again, that's a caveat that we're not quite sure what the squad's going to look like come 2 months' time when the season kicks off. So, we might have a brilliant window and those expectations may rise. But for me, I think if we can, again, have a solid season, finish in the top half and have a good run in Europe. And I think we should, assuming we end up in the conference and that gets sorted, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't really target that as an opportunity to win a trophy. And if we couple that with a mid-table finish, I think I'd be very, very satisfied. That would look to me like a good season.
Yeah, I mean, I said Crystal Palace last season. I would definitely say Crystal Palace this season. They finished in 12th and they won a trophy. And if we did that, I'd be absolutely thrilled. Anything kind of top 12, I still think is a good season for us because we did massively overperform last season. It's overperforming means there's a reason that it doesn't happen all the time, so they are going to dip potentially. So to me, top 12, good run in Europe, challenge for a domestic trophy, good run in that, I think is a very, very strong season. I know I sound negative, but just staying in the Premier League isn't a disaster as well, no matter how it happens. Because if you look at like Leeds are signing that Jacobiol player who we were keen to sign, I think Leeds are going to have a go. So I've said this before. I think one of the 17 clubs that's looking established is going to go. But yeah, no relegation battles anymore, as Pat says, certainly. What about you, Pete?
Honestly, I don't think you're being remotely negative. I think people need to have a hard look at the table and the clubs involved and really think about what they're expecting if they think it's reasonable for us to finish similarly to where we did last season and also compete on other fronts. You only need to have a quick look at the table to see what Man United and Spurs were. What are they, 15th, 16th, 17th? What 2 of those places? It would be absolutely absurd if those 2 teams aren't in the top 10, given the sort of money and the quality that they've got. And I'm not saying it will happen because there are reasons why they weren't, and particularly in Man United's case because it's been an absolute shambles off the pitch and possibly will continue to be. But that's an illustration of where we are, is that we finished the season in 7th. If those 2 teams don't finish above us, they have majorly messed up. That would be dreadful on their parts. And then you're still looking at Brighton, who've got a better squad than us, and I think arguably underperformed slightly in terms of that league finish. And there's plenty of others. Crystal Palace obviously on a bit of a high. Everton totally rebuilding. West Ham, what could they be? Anything. I'm not sure. There's so many teams that really should be finishing above us because of the way it is, and that really is just a reflection on how well we've done and how far we've come. But the truth is that even 4th season into the Premier League, we need to stay in the Premier League and just keep building slowly. That's where we are as a football club. And if you're a Crystal Palace, there is just no shame in that. It's a really impressive feat to be consistently punching above your weight, consistently having this feeling of stability around you, of bringing players through and recruiting well and all that sort of stuff. And hopefully we can do it with a bit more panache than they do. And we already look like we are doing that. And maybe, that means challenging for a trophy here and there or whatever. But I think we should be really grateful for where we are. And if we could finish top 12 and also have a decent time in 1 or 2 of those cups, then I think we'd be in a really, really good place. And personally, I've been feeling really grateful for that. I got a question for you two, just on that, some of that stuff that I was talking about. It feels to me like there are so many sort of, perhaps not make or break, but so many really interesting situations with clubs and managers of where they could be sort of on the brink of either exploding or it going really badly. I talked about West Ham. I have no real sort of thought about what could Graham Potter be in his 2nd season as a West Ham manager. Could they be a team that are challenging for the top 8, or are they going to be right down the bottom there and he's going to be suddenly a manager with a real tarnished record? Same thing applies for Ruben Amorim. Have you got any sort of, I guess, interesting instincts about any of these teams and where they might go.
I think one thing I'd say about Potter and West Ham is it feels like it's a similar scenario to what we were in 12 months ago, i.e., Nuno came in midway through the season. We ended up, we had a poor season. Things felt like they were picking up under him, but actually there was no real opportunity for him to rescue what was already going to be a difficult season. And I think it feels the same for Potter. Now he's got a full pre-season. I'd expect them to be better. Whether they'll be able to have a season like we had with a full pre-season under a new manager, not sure. But it does feel like a similar scenario that we had this time last year, i.e., struggled, had a poor season, but new manager came in midway through. Now he's got a full pre-season. Let's see what he can do. So I think the jury's still out on them, but I expect them to be better.
Yeah, I think there's probably 4 clubs that I'd be looking at that could go either way. I mentioned Leeds. I think they'll spend money, but I question the manager if Daniel Farke is actually Premier League quality. I can see Pat referencing Wolves in the chat. I feel like Wolves are like that ticking time bomb that Southampton were a few years ago. You keep selling players, eventually it's going to bite you on the backside. And I thought it would last season, but it didn't because Victor Pereira came in. And he's a really good manager, but he doesn't stick at clubs for very long, historically, according to his CV. So I'm looking at Wolves, definitely. I think Bournemouth will be all right. I can see them. And I've probably forgotten the other 2 clubs. Oh, Everton was another one. They've got the new owners. They don't seem to be making any noise about who they're signing or anything like that. And I wonder if the new stadium is going to be a blessing or a curse. I don't know.
I think reading between the lines, it feels like that actually might be a good thing because, I know this morning there have been reports about them being able to get Nick Cox out of Man United. He's their academy director and they're looking to appoint him as technical director or sporting director or whatever it is. I know they've got the CEO from Leeds and various other, and one of Man City's senior scouts is leading the recruitment stuff. So sounds to me like they're getting things right, or certainly trying to get things right off the pitch for once, which would be, I would say, the right way to go about things before you start scouring the market and such like. I think that's been the problem for Everton for a long time, is it's all been very, very messy, lots of different cooks, all that sort of stuff. So for me, I think that sort of building that sort of stability and those relationships off the pitch is definitely the first step. So it looks like they may be trying to do that.
Yeah, Brentford were the other ones. I mean, you think every year, oh, it might be their year, and you look at them now, and logic says they lose the manager that's been there for 8 years. They're going to lose Burmo and potentially Vista by the look of it. So you lose your manager and your 2 best players, and logic says they're going to struggle, but they keep defying the odds. They're a club that's so well run. Their recruitment's just been unbelievable. So yeah, you would think they'll find a way, but logic says that maybe this is the year that they struggle. But Wolves definitely will be the ones I'm really looking at. Right. Just before we come to final thoughts, if you are watching this on YouTube, then later today, in a couple of hours or so, there'll be a second video today. I spoke with Luke Entwistle, who is the editor-in-chief of Get French Football News, to ask him about John Textor and Lyon, because we've talked so much about Textor. I wanted to get some kind of background on what's going on there with his ownership and how fans feel about it and how they feel about Matt Turner and Danilo and all these transfers. So we have a good chat about Textor and Lyon. So that'll come out separately on YouTube. If you're listening to audio, then I'm going to put it on the end of this because it's just easier with editing. It's, boring stuff. But yeah, so you'll have a chat with Luke Entwistle if you're getting this on the audio version on Apple or Spotify. We'll be back tomorrow with Emily and Pete with some general chat, and then Friday we've got a very exciting quiz coming up, which we're recording tonight, which Pete and Paul and Dan are completely in charge of. So just before I throw it to them, just a reminder, live show 25th of July, get your tickets, gigantic.com, search Forest Focus, and you can get your tickets there for a £5. Right, Paul Morley, anything you want to say before we go?
No, just thanks for having me on. Enjoyed the chat. Got a busy day, got a sports day this afternoon. Going on holiday tomorrow, got some packing to do, and then we've got this quiz tonight. So full steam ahead for the rest of the day. But yeah, thanks for the chat, and look forward to catching up again soon.
I just imagine Paul Morley lives a sensational life. I'd love to, fly on the wall for a week or so. Absolute dream, I'm sure. Pete Blackburn, anything from you?
I'll be happy just spending a week in Paul Morley's wine cellar. The only thing I'll say as well, firstly, please get your live tickets. It was absolutely cracking last time, and I'd be really looking forward to seeing a lot of you. And hopefully, given that it's a Friday this time, it might open the doors for a few more people who perhaps wouldn't have been able to get down normally. So I'll be really looking forward to that and meeting lots of people. And the other thing is just I think sometimes there's a bit of something lost in translation with this podcast, that people think maybe we're being a little bit negative when we say things like we have done today about, mid-table being a good finish, that sort of thing. We get lots of comments about the owner's ambition and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's worth saying that that stuff is amazing and overachievement is amazing, and we all want to see that. But I think it's important that we understand that it is overachievement when it is, and that we are happy about that rather than expecting it. I think the realistic take is that it's going to be hard, and certainly harder than last year. And if they can achieve anything like they did last year in terms of a league finish, then I think we should be aware that that would be genuinely phenomenal. And, I, for one, will be absolutely there for it and loving it. But I think there's no failure whatsoever if we're a solid mid-table team come next time we're talking at the end of a season. So, yeah, it's not negativity whatsoever. It's just trying to have a sense of perspective about it and giving ourselves a platform to go and overachieve. And if we can do that, then fantastic.
Right, good stuff. If you've enjoyed this, do us a favour. There's 250 people with us, which is great. Hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider membership or Patreon, or just a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Like I say, we'll be back tomorrow, so join us there if you can. But in the meantime, Pete Blackburn, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I think we've done well to squeeze 36 minutes out of that one.
Well, I told you it would take about 20, so yeah, we have done well. That's the standard under budgeting. Paul Morley, thank you very much.
Cheers, fellas. See you soon.
Yeah, we shall see you soon. Have a good day, everyone. And if we don't see you tomorrow, now I have to say we shall see you soon again, which, in journalistic terms, saying the same word twice in consecutive sentences is frowned upon. But I'm going to do it because it feels like.
What on earth are we going to talk about? You've scheduled us in. We've already run out of stuff today. What's going to happen before tomorrow to do another one of these?
No idea, but I'll think of something. So yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah,
it'll be good. Yeah. Right. If we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.